Warning, Watch It Wednesday is closer than it may appear. Have you ever seen that on your mirrors in the car? Warning, objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. Well, this series in Obadiah and Joel, we're talking about warning, the day of the Lord is near. Did you know that we are closer to the day of the Lord's return today than we were yesterday? Every day that we live, the day of the Lord draws closer and closer, and it may just be nearer than we think it is. Last week, when we looked at Obadiah, we learned that there is judgment for Edom. We can often look at Edom as the people of this world that are not of God, those who are not a part of God's family. They are judged, and in the end, they will receive an eternal punishment, those who do not believe in him. Well, in the prophet of Joel, we see a message to those who do know God. Now, it is believed that this book was written after the exile, so Israel had already faced judgment, 70 years of exile, and now after the exile, they once again need a warning. The day of the Lord is near. Have you ever needed a reminder? If I'm honest, and I don't like to admit this, I feel like I'm getting to the age where I forget what I was supposed to do, forget what I was going into the room to do. I need a reminder sometimes because I forget. As you look into the book of Joel in chapter 1, it first starts and says, "Hear this, you elders. Give ear, all inhabitants of the land. Has such a thing happened in your days or in the days of your fathers?" First, the question is, says, anything like this happened before? And then the next verse says, "Tell your children of it, and let your children tell their children, and their children to another generation." Tell the next generation so they don't forget that the day of the Lord is near. In fact, in verse 15, it says, "Alas, for the day of the Lord is near, and as destruction from the Almighty it comes. The day of the Lord is the day of judgment." And the day of the judgment of the Lord happens in this world, but ultimately it happens at the end of this world, where we will all face the judgment of God the Father. Well, specifically here in the book of Joel, we see that they are in trouble. This picture of locusts come in and eat the plants. And it says, what the first locusts don't eat, the second locust will. And whatever the first and second don't eat, the next will. And you will be left with nothing. Nothing. Judgment from the Lord is near. The vines, the wheat, they don't even have enough to offer sacrifices to God because it has all been taken away. But not only that, it continues to say that the animals are moaning with hunger. Fire has devoured the pastures and the wilderness. Flames have burned all the trees of the field. The water of the brooks are dried up. Fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness. This is the day of judgment, consequence. This chapter is just full of dread and judgment of God. And it makes me wonder, church, do we need a reminder that the day of God's judgment is near in this world and in the one to come? You see, each one of us are asked to live in such a way that honors God. So, When we come before the throne of God one day, and all our deeds and actions and thoughts and words are stacked up against His, how will we do? I want you to think about that. I want to think about your words, the things that you say. I want you to think about your deeds, the things that you do. And I want you to think about your thoughts. And I want you to compare them according to the perfect Word of God and the instructions that God gives us of what a faithful, obedient life is. And when you do that, do your words, do your actions, and do your thoughts measure up? The reality is nobody's does. Compared to the perfect word and will of God, we cannot measure up. And we deserve judgment. We deserve judgment. Just as the Israelites are facing this judgment of locusts, we will face an eternal judgment on our own works. But God, we will see in the next chapter, is calling us to Himself. Even in this chapter, He says to lament, to wail, to put on sackcloth, to fast, to come together and go before the Lord in prayer. On our own, we deserve the judgment of God. On the own, we deserve everything to be taken away. On our own, we deserve to be like the Edomites last week and completely destroyed. Warning, the day of the Lord is near. Are you ready?